I'm gonna see if I can do what I did last time and just talk for a while. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with making scripts for these videos. That it's not really something I can ever. It's not ever something I want to do. Or I think I want to do it, and then I try, and then it just reminds me of school, maybe, or it's really hard for me, like, sit down and write in general. It's just not something I made a habit of, but maybe I'll be able to do that later. Anyways, yeah, so I guess I'll just try to ramble for 30 minutes. I thought the last video on Taoism went pretty good. I mean, this is like the stuff I think about all the time, so I think generally I can go back to the same talking points and arguments that come up in my head all the time. Because it really consumes me, because I think our lack of what, in my opinion, are correct priorities, not just the U.S., everywhere pretty much, every civilized society. I mean, like, we have medical shit figured out a lot more than we used to. People die less from cancer and, you know, just health problems in general. We can, like, replace organs and shit. But, our mental health's getting worse. Which is such a huge indicator and clear indicator of, like, an error in our way of living completely. And while I think a lot of people, I probably said this in my last video, like, a lot of people know that there's issues in the system of inequality, of priorities in success, materialism, status. Most people still try to find a way to live in this way of living anyways. If you're an artist, even though it's hard, artists try to monetize their skill and passion so they can survive in this system. And most people in general, like, it's like, oh yeah, I gotta find a thing I like to do or thing I want to do so I can make money, which is, like, so fucked up. And so I decided, like, okay, I'm gonna leave. That's my goal. I'm just gonna try to leave, live on a farm, whether it's here or somewhere else. Not have any sort of job. Try to get away from, like, money, because then, it's an act of rebellion. Like, I don't take part in the system. But I don't think that would be fulfilling enough for me. This might just be like a video diary, honestly. I don't know. But, yeah, to me, like, a major part of whatever, I think I personally feel an obligation and desire to either influence I want to change. I want to change it. I don't want to just leave it, and I don't think I would be satisfied just leaving it and being like, oh yeah, that place sucks. Glad I got out of there. Because I think, the world would be a better place if it changed. So I want to at least, sprout some seeds there. I don't think any one person, like, it would be foolish and probably, like, egoic to think that I could, radically change the whole thing. But it's just a matter of a lot of people coming to similar realizations and deciding for themselves that, it's not working out, and talking with other people about it, and eventually that would just hopefully spread. Yeah, I don't know if I'm an optimist or a pessimist about it, because there's a lot of things that could kill us all, or, you know, it's kind of like, dude, nice. I didn't even think about this. I've been watching Avatar again, The Last Airbender, classic show. And I kind of see it as, I'm just watching the beginning again, I haven't watched that far. And so, like, the Fire Nation is, you know, they're the colonizers. They fucking colonize all the other villages. They fuck them all up. Everyone's doing, almost every episode, it's like, oh, the Fire Nation killed my family. Oh, they, like, it's any problem in each episode, because a lot of the episodes seem to be, like, little individual stories and vignettes or whatever. Usually the Fire Nation is, like, the base of the problem, because they're imposing on people that were doing fine, or whatever, or doing their own thing. And there's a really strong connection there, because, oh yeah, I was talking about how, like, we're almost to a point of no return, in a way. And in the Avatar, there's, like, the comet that comes, and Avatar Broku's like, hey, well, this comet makes a firebender really strong, and if you don't do it by then it's too late. And because then they're just gonna, you know, there's the war going on, and they're just gonna seize complete control, because they'll have more power. So while it's not, you know, some comet isn't gonna come by, there will, in terms of, like, authoritarian, overreach and, like, forcing you to play a part in this system, because that's kind of what's already happening. Like, you used to be born in a little village, and, you know, the village already had a lot of farmland, because that was how people survived. And so it's like, okay, here's your dad's farmland, work on the farmland, you learn how to farm, you learn how to self-sustain. That's like, that should be a goal, that should be something that people learn, because then you can learn that so quickly, at least comparatively to, like, you know, 20 years of schooling or whatever. You can learn that so quickly and actually do that so quickly, especially if you're already living in nature, which we've, you know, somewhat ruined, so we can't do that anymore as easily. Now I have to leave and buy a farm. This is just what I want to do, I guess. Like, not everyone wants to do this, but I still think it would be a better system, because if you start in a village, or start in a, yeah, it doesn't have to be a little village, it could be big, and you have the means to do the farm stuff and self-sustain, then you can go from there, and then be like, okay, you know, I'm self-sustaining now, I don't have to worry about money and getting a job, and then I can, yeah, just go from there, do what you want from there. It makes a lot more sense to me. I think I said all I wanted to say about Avatar, but I didn't even think about that till, yeah, so I can just talk, dude, stuff will just come up. Yeah, dude, the Fire Nation fucking sucks, and that's, like, what we are. Like, yeah, I probably talked about this last time. I don't want to repeat myself too much. But, yeah, you know, what we did, I think, you know, what we did to the indigenous people here, what all Europeans do to every cool little pillage. They, take over, hey, this is better. They use violence if necessary. They obviously have more power because that's what they care about. And then the cool people, anyone cool doesn't care about power. That's, people that care about power are the insecure that want security. Okay, speaking of, like, security, I remembered something else I wanted to talk about. I've been reading Carl Jung, who's an absolute god king, and I'm just pacing, dude. And I want to say first, what's interesting about Carl Jung is, you know, he's a dude that really developed his own ideas on his own without much adherence to what was, like, already academically decided as truth. And so because of that, he had a lot of groundbreaking ideas. And a lot of ideas that, it's kind of weird because in school, like, even, I think in psychology classes, but especially in, you know, philosophy too, they don't, because that's what I'm in, they don't talk about Carl Jung that much. They even talk about Sigmund Freud more, who's, like, I mean, he has a lot of weird theories that kind of just seem more dogmatic to me. She's like, oh yeah, you had that because you want to fuck your mom. you had that dream because you want to fuck your mom. Oh. Whereas Carl Jung's like, oh, yeah, this makes sense because, I had this dream, and it looks like exactly the structure of, like, the story structure of it is exactly the same as, all these, like, biblical or religious stories, and it happened because of this, and he, there's a lot of connections that he makes that really enforces representation, which is something, we piss shit on dreams now. Like, I mean, I can understand that people don't like to hear about other people's dreams. I think that's totally fair. But in terms of, like, the individual giving their own dreams significance, we don't give a shit about dreams. And we don't understand them that well. Like, there's some theories, I guess, about, help survival. Because that's what we want. Science is just as bad. It's really hard to, like, critique science now without a lot of backlash, because people think if I critique science, I think, or if anyone critiques science, that they're like, oh, flat earther, you don't believe in science? You can't just not believe in science. It's like, no, I believe, anything that's scientifically proven is scientifically proven. Of course, science has a huge place, and what is scientifically true is, like, should be respected and approved and believed in, I guess. But the problem is, anything that is not scientifically true yet, very keyword yet, we dismiss and we look down upon. So that's where I'm coming from with, like, any of the, you start talking spiritual around, like, old guards, around, like, your parents, or dude, and I have to define spiritual every time. Yeah, I'm not talking about, like, making conclusions that are just far-fetched and silly, because that's what people think. A lot of, like, very scientifically minded people that only value stuff that has been set in scientific stone, those people will always, like, dismiss anything that even, like, sounds spiritual before they even listen to the connections that are being made, which is just as bad as, that's what I was, nice, it comes full circle, it's just as bad as, like, the dogmatic, nature of religion. Instead, it's just kind of a situation where it's like, atheists are retarded because they don't believe, they're like, oh no, God doesn't exist. Well, a lot of, not saying all atheists, because, like, a lot of atheists are actually agnostic and they just don't, like, say agnostic, or they use but, like, anyone that's like, oh, God doesn't exist, for sure, is just as dumb that someone's like, oh, this specific individual or multiple gods exist also. It's like, we don't know. So I think we're leaning too far on just valuing things that are scientifically set in stone, which has made us lost, which has made us lose our inherent, like, spiritual connection that, indigenous people had with, like, they'd associate meaning and representation to dreams and animals and nature and everything they saw. And yeah, as I always say, like, life's an inherently spiritual experience, or at least, if you don't want to use the word spiritual, like, I think Carl Jung said at the beginning of this somewhere, he's like, it's not a scientific problem, his life. This is an autobiography. Let's see here. This is the first paragraph, which I thought was pretty beast. My life is a story of the self-realization of the unconscious. Everything in the unconscious seeks outward manifestation, and the personality, too, desires to evolve out of its unconscious conditions and to experience itself as a whole. I cannot employ the language of science to trace this process of growth in myself, for I cannot experience myself as a scientific problem. Just the fact that you're an embodied experience, you'll never be able to have that outward view, and that outward view isn't better. That outward view is something that exists, maybe not tangibly, like basically in that paragraph he's saying like I'm not going to talk about. He doesn't remember that much of his life in terms of events and circumstances, but he does remember events and circumstances that changed him, and especially what those changes were and how they affected him and how he interpreted them, which I think is far more important when you look at your life story. You're not gonna. I think what you should value and appreciate more is the emotional growth and personality change, and it's not going to be like, oh yeah, well this sounds weird, but it's like I'm glad you're not going to die and be like, oh I got to go skydiving and then I went to Thailand or whatever, and maybe those things will be on your mind if they affected you. That's why I do still agree with putting money and effort towards experiences like that because of how they will affect you mentally, but not just for the experience in its own sake. That's why people do those experiences a lot. Like, people know that those experiences will affect them deeply, because they're trying to get out of like the mundanity of their everyday life. That your thoughts are going to change more when you change your environment radically. Yeah, we're just fucked up, I think. It's really sad. Like, I don't understand how this happened. Because we're so smart, and yet with statistics of mental health, especially in teenagers and shit, like, more people are committing suicide. That's like the second. This is just from something I just saw the other day. I'm not just pulling it out of my. It's not something I know normally, but like, it's in a certain pretty large age group. I think like 15 to 30 or some shit like that. The second highest chance of you dying is like suicide, like you just killing yourself. And then accidents is number one, because we're better on like the medical shit, like I was saying earlier. Yeah, it's a weird position to be in. There's a lot of like other people that feel this way, and I feel like there's more people that feel the way I do now than there was maybe 20 years ago. I think it's been growing steadily as like capitalism and maybe not, I shouldn't just say capitalism, because it's really not just capitalism, even though that's like, yeah, I should really just say our values have really just gone so bad, and power just being funneled into one such a small amount of people. So there's a lot of control that you don't have. That's like, shit fighting for your attention, and shit fighting, trying to conform, like basically the news and what am I saying? Oh yeah, and like a lot of advertisements and things are trying to get you to believe in what they're saying, I guess. I feel like I could have said that better. I don't know. Politics are fucking retarded. Like, they don't have to be retarded. I think politics are like good. Uh, but what we've got going on now is not real debate, and the people that believe one thing are going to continue believing the same thing, because that's how these media deeds work. Like, they have their tribe, and they're saying what they know the tribe likes to hear, and they continually antagonize the other tribe, and so the tribe also does that. That's what a lot of it is now. It's like, wow. retarded liberals, retarded right-wingers. It's like that. Even if one is better, that's so besides the point that you shouldn't even be thinking about that. Like the whole thing's fucked up, and it's like right in front of your face. I don't know. I'm not trying to be like, oh, sheeple, sheeple, sheeple. Because it's the system that does it, and people fall into it, like naturally. It's like a river. And then when we concern ourselves with I just think the issue is just a lot deeper than what common media outlets talk about as problems. Like George Floyd happened, and now media is talking about it because people were outraged about it. So media makes money off of it, and now it's a problem because I'm sure racial injustice and injustice in general, has obviously been happening this whole time. And then there's an instance that picks up speed and is a snowball, which, may be a good thing. I'm not saying it's not a good thing that, it seems like there's a lot of revolution going on right now and people are fighting against the system. But there needs to be clarity in that the media, even the left-wing media, is certainly not helping. They're just pandering and trying to get money. I mean, there's some beasts. I'm not saying like if I were to say some beasts from what I've seen in news, like people that seem genuine and people that understand the reality of the bad situation that we're in. It's like Jon Stewart. That guy's a beast, I would say. For the most part. I don't know how much. I haven't seen everything. But like Jimmy Kimmel, fucking Stephen Colbert, even though he's like, he's like tries to be intellectual, he's like, I'm an intellectual. It still comes off as so dogmatic if you watch any of them. Like, it's all just like, herder, Trump's retarded. I feel weird even saying that because I know, like, they also talk on real issues that need to be solved, but they're so in it for them not to go as far as, as Jon Stewart does, where he's like, oh yeah, what the fuck, like, all the main workers that keep this country, like, going, like the industrial elites and shit, like, they make, the least amount of money, and people that are investing and not providing anything are making, like, the most money. He said, like, he felt, like, pretty hopeless about it, and that's why he left, like, in terms of changing anything. Yeah, I don't think that's the route to change. Well, people are just gonna have to talk amongst themselves and decide for themselves. I kind of want to talk about something else. I feel like I don't watch politics enough at all to even give enough, like, examples and shit. I've always open to critiques, but from what I've seen, there's no point in giving my attention to it when it's like, so when it has lied before and it lies a lot, and it obviously has, like, an agenda and everything. Like, it doesn't deserve attention from people. Yeah. What else? I guess back to spirituality, I could talk about hippies, because I might have said this before. I'm not sure. I don't know what I've said and what I haven't said. I just have a bunch of jumbled thoughts, and I don't script or whatever. But yeah, hippies. We've given hippies like a bad name. I think like it's a derogatory thing a lot of the time. Like a little bit. There's an undercurrent of like derogatory implications to hippie. Like lazy, gross, dirty, doesn't care about yeah, lazy. Which is probably true in some cases, but I'm pretty sure we see them as worse because of how they're like juxtaposed against, the normal citizen, and the fact that those hippies, if they are rebelling against, the system or whatever, they might take it upon themselves to make their appearance, both like personality-wise and, just outward appearance. They might take it upon themselves to make that even more extra kind of against, like unnecessarily against, when they're like, oh, their names, I don't know, people can do what they want. I was going to say their names are like Rain, Shine, Moonkin or whatever. And just how they, but I don't have a problem with them at all, honestly. I don't know where that was going. I'm gonna have some water. Yeah, I'm just in this house alone. It's pretty sick. I'm thinking about something else from Avatar. Another 30-minute video. It's fucking Yoda, dude. I could talk about weed. Weed's weird. I don't know how I feel about it. Because on one hand, I feel like it does actually kill some motivation. At least for me, personally. But on the other, it feels like it coincides with my, I don't want to show these people's house. It coincides with ideas I have about, how bad the world is. It gives you the nature is the answer. Just like mushrooms, kind of, in my opinion. Gives you like the nature is the answer. Yeah, I don't think I really have. It's like, it's not 30 minutes. I don't want to end it. Let's see here. I always just cut these two. Anything else, boys? I just want to be an honest D, I feel like people aren't honest with themselves. Or they don't even have. I'm not trying to be elitist, but they don't even have like. I guess it's what Carl, because it's for me too. I guess it's what Carl Jung's talking about, where he's like bringing the unconscious to light or whatever. You have all these things, all these environmental impacts that affect you from when you're born, and the river that you're already going in terms of like, culture and society you're born in. It's like, oh, go to college, get a degree, get a job, and a college degree. And you're just already like kind of going that way, and then these emotional experiences happen, and this society doesn't really talk about that enough and give you ways to understand those things that happen to you, like feeling wise. Feelings aren't really seen as like extreme feeling, intense feeling, which is totally normal, isn't really seen. It's seen as normal, but it's not accommodated for very well, I don't think. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is, I don't remember what I'm trying to say, but I'll keep talking. Uh, is that, you know, to understand yourself, you bring the unconscious to light. Those things that in your past that affected you in certain ways that changed the course of your personality, and you just kept going, and you didn't actually assess why you are the way you are because of the things that happened in the past. Yeah, that video is gonna end in a minute. But yeah, a lot of people just keep moving, I think, and don't look back at why they are the way they are, because it's all that's how this life is advertised to you. It's like, oh, keep going, get through school, get a job, keep moving. Uh, those types of priorities are more important to us than mental health and self-understanding. And self-understanding is the number one. There's no doubt. There's no doubt that self-understanding is not the number one way for you to find true happiness. Not fleeting happiness that is like, oh, I'm happy because something happened to me. It's because I'm happy because I understand myself and understand where I'm at and why I'm here and what I want and how to get there. And you just gotta face yourself, man. Like, I don't give a... I do